They get to know in the morning.
Who doesn't love a lava lamp? Those retro home decorations with those hypnotic blobs bouncing up and down still have their fans, and they're much safer than actual lava, if they're handled properly. They're supposed to be heated by a bulb in the base, but Philip Quinn of Kent, Washington had an idea for how to speed it up in 2004. He decided to put the lamp on the stove and heat it. It worked. A little too well. The lava lamp overheated, the glass exploded, and Mr. Quinn took a shard of glass directly to the heart and died soon afterwards. Not exactly the eruption of Pompeii.
Why people just can't let stuff work the way it's supposed to? Why you gotta put it on the stove? That was dumb. That was dumb. What's poppin', YouTube? We back with another reaction video. You dig? Today we're reacting to Dumb Ways to Die. US edition. I guess there's an edition of other countries, but this is US edition. But yeah, we're gonna get right to it. Hit that like button, subscribe, comment down below what you want me to react to next, and turn your notification bells on. Let's get started.
Let's be honest, Americans aren't the most cautious people. Just ask Florida Man when he calls you for bail money. But some risks and bad decisions don't work out too well. Some end with people going down in history in the obituaries. Here are some of the dumbest ways Americans have managed to get themselves killed. Robert Dreyer maybe shouldn't have been driving anymore. The Florida man had just turned 89 in 2017 but was reluctant to surrender his license. Sure enough, while out for a drive, he crashed into a fire hydrant. A routine accident, except that the crash also managed to break the water line connected to the hydrant. This created a massive burst of water pressure, and when Dreyer stepped out of the vehicle to check the damage, the old man was pulled into a massive sinkhole and disappeared into the ground. Witnesses tried to help, but were unable to get past the surging water.
What was the ground made out of? Holy shit. We need to get the roast together out here. If he just died off a sinkhole, that's crazy.
Dreyer drowned in a freak deadly fender bender. He wasn't the only Florida man to meet an unexpected end. Salvatore Disi was trying to service a helicopter in Hernando County, Florida in 2019. The stubborn aircraft needed to be jump-started, and Disi needed a boost to reach the parts. He decided to use a power cart to reach it, a ground support device used by those loading airplanes and getting them ready for deplaning. His strategy worked, and he was able to get the helicopter working, only for the rotors to move up and down unexpectedly just as he reached them, knocking Disi's head clean off and bringing a sudden end to the 61-year-old airport worker's career and life. This next plane-related death was even more unusual. It was a packed football game between the Jets and the Patriots in New York Shea Stadium in 1979, and the halftime show had an unexpected surprise for fans. The Electronic Eagles, a radio-controlled plane group, was putting on a show of pilotless modeled planes that could engage in dogfights. But this day, the planes seemed to be getting unusually close to fans. People started getting nervous when one of the planes crashed into the field, but the show went on until one man controlling a model plane shaped like a lawnmower lost control. The model plane spiraled, crashed into the crowd, and seriously injured the unfortunate John Bowen, who died 4 days later. While it was ruled an accident, it cast a permanent shadow over the Electronic Eagles. But sometimes a car will do just as well as a plane. John Hutcherson and Francis Brougham were two friends who loved to get drunk. After a night of partying, Brougham was 2 sheets to the wind, so Hutcherson drove them home. The only problem was he was drunk too. During the fatal 2004 ride, Brougham stuck his head out the window and promptly hit a telephone wire, decapitating him. But Hutcherson was too drunk to notice and continued driving home for 12 miles before falling asleep and leaving Brougham's body in the car.
Drunk.
It was found the next morning by a neighbor, and Hutcherson claimed to never notice. Brougham's family seemed to believe him, asking a judge for mercy for the drunk driver.
That's crazy.
Next unfortunate victim was killed by lava.
They get to know in the morning.
Who doesn't love a lava lamp? Those retro home decorations with those hypnotic blobs bouncing up and down still have their fans, and they're much safer than actual lava, if they're handled properly. They're supposed to be heated by a bulb in the base, but Philip Quinn of Kent, Washington had an idea for how to speed it up in 2004. He decided to put the lamp on the stove and heat it. It worked. A little too well. The lava lamp overheated, the glass exploded, and Mr. Quinn took a shard of glass directly to the heart and died soon afterwards. Not exactly the eruption of Pompeii.
Why people just can't let stuff work the way it's supposed to? Why you gotta put it on the stove? That was dumb. That was dumb.
Injuries aren't the most common cause of death, but this one was especially painful. Dick Wertheim was a tennis lineman who would become famous in 1983 when his name became unfortunately prophetic. He was working as an officiant when Swedish tennis phenom Stefan Edberg sent a serve in the wrong direction and hit Wertheim directly in the groin.
Shit.
Wertheim recoiled in pain, fell backwards out of his chair, and hit his head on the hard ground. He was taken to the hospital unconscious and died 5 years later. Wertheim wasn't a healthy man, and there were extended legal battles over what killed him. But the International Tennis Foundation made one big change. No more linesmen sitting down during matches. This next daredevil failed a spot check in the most shocking way. Ivan Lester McGuire was a veteran skydiver, and he had gone to his next mission, working with other parachutists in North Carolina. For part of a mass dive in 1988, McGuire decided he would film the other divers as they descended to Earth. Once the others had gone, he made sure his camera was set for recording, got into position, and jumped out of the plane. He had just forgotten one little detail to put on his parachute. Instead of capturing the other divers as they approached the ground, he managed to capture the fast-approaching ground as he free fell toward a fatal impact. A shocking end for a man who made over 800 jumps. One of the most common ways to die, getting on the wrong side of the wrong animal. Jose Luis Ochoa wasn't exactly a friend to the animals. He liked to attend illegal cockfights in California, and he'd been cited before for training roosters to fight. But in 2011, he had a way to make the cockfights even more exciting, strapping blades to the limbs of the birds to make it easier for them to kill each other. Well, karma got the bird-brained crook. While trying to wrangle one of those birds, it managed to stab him in the calf and he began to bleed profusely. He waited 2 hours to get medical treatment, likely trying to come up with another explanation for his injury, and died soon after arriving.
2 hours!
This next death was also caused by cruelty to animals, but these animals were a lot smaller. Edward Archbold was determined to live up to his Florida Man title, and what better way than to win a cockroach eating contest? The challenge, hosted by a lizard store in 2012, offered a grand prize of an expensive python, a deadly animal in its own right. But Archbold was done in by much smaller animals. After eating a large number of roaches and worms, he started choking and vomiting. Unable to clear his airway, he collapsed and died outside the store. While his cause of death was never conclusively determined, most believe that the hard, dry shells and the legs of the cockroaches could have easily gotten stuck in his throat. But you don't always have to kill animals to get killed by them. Erica Marshall might have been a Florida woman, but she was a friend to the animals. She was an experienced veterinarian who specialized in treating horses and was working with a hyperbaric oxygen chamber, commonly used for wound care. But several things were overlooked. The horse apparently hadn't been sedated before being led into the chamber, and its metal shoes hadn't been taped over. That, combined with the high oxygen pressure, was a deadly combination. The horse started kicking, causing sparks, which led to a fire, followed by a massive explosion that could be heard 30 miles away and killed both Marshall and the horse. But one man managed to get killed not by an animal, but by a plant. It was 1982 and David Grundman was out for some target practice. The Arizona man was using his shotgun to shoot some signs, and he then turned his attention to another target, the massive saguaro cacti growing in the desert. These cacti aren't the ones you get in a pot at the garden shop. They can be over 20 feet high and live to be over 100 years old. That didn't stop Grundman from shooting at one, and before he knew what happened, the massive spiny limb from the plant landed on him and crushed him. This death became so famous, it was immortalized in a song by the Austin Lounge Lizards. The next fatal stunt proved that more isn't always a good thing. It was 1997 and a group of teenagers from Napa High School were enjoying a senior trip to a local water park. A group came up with the idea to just see how many people could fit in one water slide at a time, and the answer was apparently fewer than they hoped. No one knows exactly how many teenagers crammed themselves into that slide, but a portion of the slide opened up due to the weight, dropping the passengers 40 feet. The accident injured 32 people, including 18-year-old Quimby Galati, who died of her injuries. This next man might have valued his cell phone a little too much. Roger Miro had lost his phone.
I was on the water slide today.
56-year-old Chicago man had a suspicion that it might have been thrown out, so he decided to dig through the apartment building's garbage disposal. Unfortunately, he didn't check exactly how the trash was handled in the building. The man went missing, and no one knew what had happened until his wife reported the absence later that day. An investigation found him crushed to death by the industrial-strength trash compactors in the garbage. While his death was ruled a tragic accident, many residents called for better warning signs around the trash chute in the future. But not even the most famous are immune to the most ridiculous deaths. Governor Morris was a founding father and one of the Constitutional Convention's most ardent opponents of slavery, as well as a senator from New York. But in 1816, his wisdom in matters
Your purchase could be free when you use your Credit Karma Visa debit card. Free groceries, free gas.
of politics didn't extend to wisdom in self-medicating. He had been plagued by a painful blockage in his urinary tract and decided to clear it out himself with a piece of whalebone he used as a catheter. Naturally, this only made things worse, and Morris soon died from internal injuries and infection, which must have led to an interesting day at the medical examiners. This next case took defending his client a little too far. Clement Vallandigham had a controversial life, being an Ohio congressman who was arrested and expelled from Congress for his opposition to the Civil War. He brought that same reckless spirit to his later career as an attorney. In 1871, he was defending Thomas McGeehan, who was accused of murder in a barroom brawl. Vallandigham's argument was that the victim had likely shot himself while trying to pull out his pistol, and decided to demonstrate that this could result in an accidental shooting. It worked. A little too well, as Vallandigham fatally shot himself in front of the entire courtroom. While he died the next day, his mission was accomplished. McGeehan was acquitted of murder. This next man could escape anything except a ridiculous death. Harry Houdini was the king of escapes, pulling off daring feats of survival like escaping from water tanks while in straitjackets or being buried alive. But his undoing was a lesser-known stunt of his. Houdini would frequently dare onlookers on stage to punch him in the stomach, protecting himself with a special suit. But one day, a man named Jocelyn Gordon Whitehead approached Houdini in his dressing room to test his ability. He punched Houdini several times in the stomach, causing internal damage. Houdini died several days later of a ruptured appendix, which may or may not have been caused by the punches, but many suspect Houdini would have been aware he had appendicitis if he hadn't already been in pain. Another woman traveled the world until she came to a sudden and shocking stop. Isadora Duncan dazzled the world as a dancer and traveled around much of Europe far from her San Franciscan home. In the early 1900s, she performed up to age 50 when she boarded a luxury French car while wearing a long silk scarf. The scarf was a hand-designed gift by a Russian artist, and while her friends urged her to wear a coat instead, Duncan wanted to show off the wrap. While she was riding, the flowing scarf became entangled in the wheels and axle and yanked her back harshly. Her neck was broken and she died instantly. One of the few people to die in a car accident that didn't involve a crash. In 1984, an American matinee idol met a disturbing end. John Eric Hexum was a fast-rising action star who had just won the lead role on the new CBS drama Cover Up, playing a CIA handler. He may have taken his role as a daredevil hero a little too far. While filming a scene with a real handgun, Hexum was frustrated by a delay in filming. He decided to play Russian roulette with the unloaded gun, which had one blank round in it. But the blank used paper wadding and was shot out from the gun with such force when Hexum pulled the trigger that it shattered part of his skull, causing a fatal brain hemorrhage, ending his promising career and dooming the series as it barely begun. But some ordinary people died in such dramatic ways that they became celebrities. Michael Godwin was awaiting execution for murder when he got a lucky break. His attorney was able to get his sentence reduced to life in prison, but the convict was getting a little stir-crazy and decided to do a little do-it-yourself repair. He wanted to watch some television, but his earphones were broken. While trying to repair them, he bit into a wire while sitting on the toilet and wound up electrocuting himself as the metal toilet and water hit him with a fatal shock. Looks like he wound up getting the electric chair after all. Let's hope this next case won't start a trend. Gender reveal parties are the hottest new trend, and some people are going well beyond a cake with pink or blue center. Pamela Cremeyer was attending a celebration in 2019 when her family members unveiled the centerpiece, an umbrella filled with gunpowder that would create a shower of sparks in the color of the gender reveal. But the rookie gender reveal engineers miscalculated and the umbrella went off like a pipe bomb instead, hitting the 56-year-old Cremeyer in the head with a piece of metal and killing her instantly. For more on unusual deaths, check out Worst Natural Disasters in Human History or
That was crazy. Motherfucker died trying to reveal the gender of the baby. But hey, if y'all like that video, hit that like button, comment, subscribe. Let me know down below what you think about this video and what y'all want me to react to next. We out. Peace.